You know what's funny? The harder most men try to impress women, the less attractive they become. Because real attraction isn't created through effort, it's revealed through energy. It's not about chasing, proving, or performing. It's about presence. When a man stops trying so hard to be liked, something shifts. His silence speaks louder, his focus becomes his magnet, and that's when women start noticing him. Not because he's trying, but because he's become someone worth noticing. Step 1, the power of detachment. Detachment is not about being cold, careless, or emotionally unavailable. It's about mastering your emotions to the point where your inner peace no longer depends on someone else's attention or validation. Most men lose their power the moment they start needing something from a woman, her approval, her interest, her affection. That need is what kills attraction faster than anything else. Because the truth is, people can feel when you're desperate for their response. They can sense it in your tone, your body language, your eyes. And once a woman knows she has emotional control over you, she loses respect for you, even if she can't explain why. Detachment is that quiet strength that says, I'm okay with or without you. It's not arrogance, it's emotional stability. It's knowing who you are, what you bring, and never allowing your self-worth to fluctuate based on someone's temporary attention. When a man practices detachment, he stops over-investing in situations that don't deserve his energy. He no longer chases texts, waits for replies, or adjusts his life around someone who hasn't earned that level of access. Detachment is what separates a man who reacts from a man who responds. It gives you clarity. When you're not emotionally entangled in outcomes, you see people more clearly, their intentions, their actions, their inconsistencies. You stop trying to convince anyone of your value and start observing who naturally recognizes it. That's when your energy changes. You stop chasing and start attracting, because women are instinctively drawn to men who are not easily moved, the kind of man who doesn't beg to be seen, but commands attention through how little he needs it. Most men think attraction is about saying the right things or doing more to impress her, but the real game is internal. It's about what you're not doing, what you're not chasing, not forcing, not over-explaining. Detachment creates mystery. It makes people wonder what's so different about you, why you're not reacting like everyone else, why you're so calm, so collected, so unbothered. And that's where curiosity begins. Because in a world where everyone is desperate to be noticed, a man who moves with calm self-assurance becomes rare. That rarity is what makes him valuable. Women feel it. They might not understand it logically, but emotionally they sense it. They sense that he's not chasing, he's choosing. And when a woman feels that she's being chosen, not worshipped, the dynamic changes completely. Detachment is built through self-control and purpose. It comes from knowing that your time, energy, and peace are too expensive to waste on anyone unsure about you. When your priorities are straight, when you have goals, passions, and a life that fulfills you, you naturally stop obsessing over people's approval. That's when you become magnetic. Because women don't want to be the center of a man's world. They want to be a part of a man's world that already has direction. Detachment helps you build that world. It keeps your emotional energy focused on progress instead of pleasing. You stop being easily influenced by who stays or leaves because your happiness doesn't live in anyone else's hands. That's real power. The kind of power that can't be faked, can't be taught, and can't be taken away. It's developed through discipline, through experiences that teach you not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Detachment isn't avoidance, it's control. Control over your reactions, your desires, your focus. It's learning to enjoy someone's presence without fearing their absence. It's being connected without being consumed. And that's what makes you stand out. Step 2, purpose over pleasure. A man without purpose is easily distracted, easily controlled, and easily forgotten. When your life revolves around seeking pleasure, validation, attention, comfort, you trade your potential for short-term satisfaction. Pleasure is easy, purpose is demanding. Pleasure asks nothing from you except your time and focus, while purpose asks for sacrifice, discipline, and growth. The truth is, women can tell when a man is guided by his mission versus when he's guided by his impulses. One feels grounded, the other feels lost. A man on purpose carries a certain energy that cannot be faked. His focus, his drive, his silence, all of it communicates something powerful. He's not looking for distractions. He's building something. That energy makes him magnetic. Because deep down, women don't want to lead men. They want to follow a man who knows where he's going. When your life is built around progress instead of pleasure, You naturally command respect, not just from others, but from yourself. Purpose gives your life meaning. It gives your actions weight. When you wake up every morning knowing why you're doing what you're doing, your energy shifts. You walk differently, you talk differently, you carry yourself with quiet certainty. Pleasure fades quickly, but purpose leaves a lasting impression. A man who lives for pleasure will always be chasing the next hit, whether it's a woman's attention, a social media like, or a temporary thrill. But a man living for purpose doesn't need constant stimulation to feel alive. His satisfaction comes from progress, not approval. That's why women respect men who are building something bigger than themselves. It's not just about money, success, or status. It's about direction. It's about showing that your focus can't be bought by a beautiful face or a moment of validation. Purpose refines you in ways pleasure never can. It teaches you patience, consistency, and resilience. It forces you to face rejection, failure, and loneliness, all the things that shape strong men. Pleasure, on the other hand, keeps you soft and distracted. It keeps you comfortable but unfulfilled. You might feel good in the moment, but long term, it steals your edge. That's why men who chase pleasure often feel empty no matter how much they get. But men who chase purpose feel alive even when they're alone, even when they're tired, because they know they're moving somewhere meaningful. And that's the kind of energy that naturally draws women in, the energy of direction, focus, and emotional depth. When a man is rooted in purpose, he doesn't need to chase women because women are drawn to movement. They're drawn to growth, to progress, to ambition. It's biological. A man who's constantly chasing pleasure signals instability, while a man driven by purpose signals safety, leadership, and confidence. You become more selective with your time, your words, your company. You stop needing constant validation because you're already validated by your mission. You stop chasing women to feel significant because your path already gives you significance. Pleasure might give you temporary highs, but purpose gives you identity. It's what makes you stand firm in a world full of distractions. When your mind is anchored in something meaningful, you become immune to the noise. You start valuing peace over excitement, growth over comfort, and long-term fulfillment over instant gratification. That's when your life begins to attract everything you used to chase. Step 3, the energy of confidence, not cockiness. Confidence is silent power. It's the calm certainty that comes from knowing who you are and not needing anyone to confirm it for you. Cockiness, on the other hand, is noise. It's insecurity wearing a mask. Most men confuse the two. They think confidence means talking louder, showing off, or trying to prove dominance. But true confidence doesn't compete. It simply exists. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about being grounded in your own value. A confident man doesn't chase validation because he already lives in alignment with his purpose and principles. You can feel it in how he walks, how he looks at people, how he speaks. There's no rush, no pressure, no performance. He's comfortable in his own skin. That comfort creates a magnetic energy that draws people in naturally. Women sense it immediately because confidence gives them emotional security. It tells them this man won't fall apart if rejected, won't lose his center if challenged, and won't crumble if ignored. That steadiness is what makes him different in a world full of loud egos trying too hard to be seen. Cockiness is fragile. It's loud because it needs to be. It demands attention because it's terrified of being overlooked. The cocky man needs to prove he's better, smarter, or stronger because deep down he doesn't believe it himself. Confidence doesn't need comparison. A confident man doesn't need to be the best in the room, he just needs to be himself, fully. And that authenticity is what people gravitate toward. Women especially are drawn to men who don't overcompensate. They don't want someone who's constantly bragging or flexing. They want someone whose presence speaks for itself. Confidence is about control. Control over your emotions, your reactions, and your energy. It's knowing you can walk away from anything that doesn't align with your peace. That level of restraint and calmness is what separates men who attract effortlessly from men who chase endlessly. True confidence is quiet because it's rooted in awareness. It comes from knowing your worth without needing to advertise it. It's not about arrogance, it's about certainty. You know what you bring to the table, so you don't beg for a seat. You don't try to convince anyone of your value. You let your consistency prove it. And when rejection comes, as it always does, it doesn't shake you. Because confidence isn't built from others' opinions, it's built from inner stability. The confident man understands that attraction isn't something he needs to create through effort. It's something that radiates from within when he's aligned with himself. That's why he doesn't overthink what to say, how to act, or how to impress. His authenticity becomes his charm. Women can feel when a man is trying too hard. It creates tension, not attraction. But when a man is at ease, when his energy is natural, it gives a sense of comfort and mystery that pulls people in effortlessly. The energy of confidence is powerful because it communicates self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't fear losing anyone. You stop trying to control situations or force outcomes. You simply express yourself, and whatever aligns with your energy stays. That's what makes confident men stand out. They move through life with acceptance, not attachment. They don't hide their flaws, but they also don't let them define them. Confidence isn't about perfection, it's about self-acceptance. It's the quiet belief that even if things fall apart, you'll still be fine. That unshakable calm creates emotional gravity. It makes people feel safe around you, curious about you, drawn to your stability. It's not something you fake or practice. It's something you build by keeping promises to yourself, by mastering your emotions, and by living in truth. Cockiness fades the moment someone stops clapping. Confidence only grows stronger in silence. Step 4. Mystery and restraint. Mystery isn't about playing games or hiding who you are. It's about understanding that attraction thrives on curiosity. The more predictable you are, the faster people lose interest. When a man reveals everything too soon, his emotions, his plans, his weaknesses, his entire story, he removes the tension that keeps a woman emotionally engaged. Human nature is wired for curiosity. We value what we must work to understand. Mystery gives space for imagination, and imagination is the birthplace of attraction. A man who practices restraint doesn't rush to fill every silence or explain every move. He allows people to wonder. He lets them think, question, and interpret. That silence, that calm withholding, creates an emotional pull that words can't. Because when someone can't fully figure you out, they keep thinking about you, they replay your words, your tone, your pauses, trying to decode you. That's the essence of mystery. Not manipulation, but the art of revealing just enough to intrigue while keeping your inner world sacred. Restraint is discipline in emotional form. It's the ability to control your impulses, to not say everything you feel, to not react to everything that provokes you, to not chase every desire that crosses your path. Most men lose attraction not because they lack charm or looks, but because they lack restraint. They overtext, overshare, overpursue. They mistake availability for affection. But a man who practices restraint communicates something deeper: self-control. When you hold back a little, when you respond instead of react, you project calm dominance. You show that your emotions don't control you, you control them. That control builds respect, because restraint signals maturity, and maturity is deeply attractive. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely not needing to give yourself away so easily. When you're selective with your time, your words, and your energy, it forces others to value them more. Mystery and restraint work together because they both stem from inner confidence. You don't need to overshare to feel understood. You don't need to constantly prove that you care. You trust your energy to speak louder than your explanations. That's what creates an aura around you. Women notice when a man isn't desperate to be seen. They notice when he listens more than he speaks, when he doesn't flinch under silence, when he doesn't rush to impress. It's rare, and rarity is attractive. In a world where most people overshare their lives for validation, a man who keeps parts of himself private becomes intriguing. It's not about being secretive, it's about being intentional. You give people a glimpse of who you are, but not the entire story. You let your actions reveal your character instead of using words to convince. That quiet control creates emotional tension, the kind that draws someone closer, not because you pulled them in, but because they can't help but move toward you. Mystery isn't pretending to be someone you're not. It's protecting your essence. It's allowing people to earn the right to know you on a deeper level. When you reveal everything too soon, you take away the emotional journey that builds connection. Restraint keeps that journey alive. It keeps the dynamic balanced because it prevents emotional overexposure. When you can express interest without losing composure, When you can feel attraction without acting needy, you gain control over the pace of connection. That control makes your presence addictive. People start craving more of you because they've only experienced glimpses. That's the art of masculine mystery. It's not coldness, it's composure. It's not avoidance, it's awareness. You don't need to hide your emotions, but you learn to channel them with intention. You know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to pull back. You move with quiet confidence, knowing that what is unseen is often more powerful than what is shown. Step 5, emotional control is masculine power. Emotional control isn't about suppressing what you feel, it's about mastering it. Most men are taught that strength means not showing emotion, but that's not power, that's fear disguised as discipline. True emotional control is the ability to experience your emotions fully while still choosing your response. It's the power to stay calm when provoked, to stay patient when tested, to stay focused when distracted. That kind of control separates boys from men because it takes real strength to not let emotions dictate your behavior. A man who cannot control his emotions will always be controlled by them, by anger, lust, jealousy, or pride. And the moment a woman realizes she can trigger those emotions easily, she loses respect for him. Not because she's cruel, but because instability repels safety. Emotional control is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally grounded, so no one else gets to control how you feel or act. That's the foundation of masculine power. Calm in chaos, restraint in reaction, stillness in storm. Women test men's emotions not consciously, but instinctively. They do it to feel your strength, not physically, but emotionally. When she pushes your buttons, interrupts your peace, or challenges your confidence, she's not always doing it to destroy you. Sometimes she's doing it to see if your calm is real. Can you stay centered or do you crumble under pressure? A man who reacts with anger, insecurity, or desperation shows emotional weakness. But a man who remains composed shows that he's unshakable. That's what earns trust. Because emotional control signals safety. It tells her that no matter how emotional she becomes, you won't mirror her chaos. You'll stay stable, grounded, collected. That calm presence is masculine energy in its purest form. It doesn't need to dominate, it regulates. It doesn't fight for control, it creates peace. Emotional control gives you quiet authority, the kind that doesn't demand respect, but naturally commands it. Men often mistake emotional expression for weakness, but suppressing emotions doesn't make you strong, it makes you disconnected. Emotional control isn't about bottling things up, it's about understanding what you feel, processing it, and then deciding what deserves your attention. It's responding, not reacting. When you master that balance, you gain a kind of freedom most men never experience. You stop being manipulated by mood swings, by guilt, by external noise. You stop letting emotions run your decisions. You begin to move from principle, not pressure. That's when your energy shifts. You become someone who can't be provoked easily, someone whose peace is his weapon. In relationships, that energy changes everything. A man who stays calm during emotional storms becomes the anchor. He's not swayed by drama, not drained by chaos, not baited by emotional games. His stability becomes his strength, and that strength makes people respect him even when they don't agree with him. Emotional control builds discipline, and discipline builds power. When you can master your emotions, you can master your life. You stop chasing things that feed your impulses and start building things that feed your growth. You stop reacting to every challenge with frustration and start responding with focus. You start handling rejection, criticism, and disappointment with grace instead of ego. That emotional maturity is what women find irresistible. It communicates security, leadership, and depth. Because every woman, consciously or not, looks for emotional safety in a man, not perfection. And safety comes from control, not avoidance. The man who knows how to manage his emotions becomes unshakable, and unshakable men are rare. Emotional control gives you clarity when others lose it. It makes your presence heavy without saying a word. It makes you stand firm while others chase validation or revenge. That's why emotional control is the highest form of masculine power. It's invisible, but everyone feels it. Step 6. Living with standards, not seeking approval. A man who lives by standards builds his life around values, not validation. He knows what he stands for, what he will allow, and what he will walk away from. Most men lose their power because they trade their standards for approval. They adjust their behavior to be liked, to be accepted, to be chosen. But every time you bend your boundaries just to keep someone in your life, you quietly teach them that your self-respect is negotiable. Living with standards means refusing to beg for what should be earned. It's about choosing self-respect over temporary comfort. It's not arrogance or stubbornness, it's clarity. You know what aligns with your peace and what doesn't, and you no longer apologize for protecting it. Approval seeking, on the other hand, keeps you dependent on other people's opinions. It makes you reactive, inconsistent, and easily influenced. But standards keep you stable. They guide your choices even when emotions try to pull you off track. When you live with standards, you stop chasing validation because your self-worth isn't up for negotiation. You stop performing for attention or approval. You start living from principle instead of insecurity. People can sense that shift instantly. A man with standards doesn't over-explain his choices or seek permission to be himself. He simply lives in alignment with his truth, and that integrity gives his presence weight. Women are drawn to men like that because standards create structure, and structure creates safety. When a man has standards, he communicates boundaries without needing to say much. He doesn't tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional manipulation. He values his time, his energy, and his peace. That silent discipline builds attraction because it's rare. It's easy to find a man who wants attention. It's rare to find a man who wants peace. Standards are what separate the grounded from the desperate, the calm from the chaotic. Men who seek approval often sacrifice authenticity. They say what others want to hear, do what others expect, and lose themselves in the process. But authenticity is what builds real attraction. When you're authentic, you don't fear rejection because you're not trying to be accepted. You're trying to be real. Living with standards forces authenticity because you can't maintain them and fake who you are at the same time. You start valuing quality over quantity, substance over surface. You no longer chase every opportunity, every woman, every compliment, because not everything that looks good aligns with your vision. Standards protect your time and direct your energy toward what truly matters. They keep you from settling for what's convenient instead of what's right. They remind you that peace is more valuable than attention, and dignity is more powerful than desire. A man with standards is harder to manipulate because he doesn't fear being alone. Approval seekers are terrified of rejection, but a man with standards knows that solitude is better than self-betrayal. He understands that not everyone deserves access to him, and that setting boundaries doesn't make him selfish. It makes him wise. When you no longer depend on others to feel worthy, you become emotionally independent. And emotional independence is what makes a man magnetic. It's what gives him quiet confidence, presence, and authority. Women can sense when a man's validation comes from within, and it's deeply attractive because it signals strength and security. Living with standards doesn't mean being rigid or controlling, it means being self-respecting. It's knowing what you'll give, what you'll tolerate, and when to walk away. It's refusing to compromise your integrity for the sake of acceptance. When you move through life that way, you stop trying to impress and start inspiring. People begin to value your presence because they can feel that it's not something easily earned. Every man wants to be admired, respected, and desired, but it doesn't come from chasing anyone. It comes from mastering yourself. When you stop living for attention and start living with purpose, when you control your emotions instead of letting them control you, when you hold your standards without apology, you become the kind of man who doesn't need to try to attract. You simply attract by being. So don't focus on impressing women. Focus on becoming the man who impresses himself first. Everything else will follow.